Okay. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Forever Conscious Research Channel. Hope you're doing well tonight, today, this morning, this afternoon, wherever you may be. It's great to have you with me, and I appreciate each and every one of you. While we are on this journey to continue and expose the Matrix Reincarnation Soul Trap. So tonight, we are going to be going over the testimony of Sue Ingram. She's a 2-time near-death experiencer, which is rare in and of itself. Now, what's even rarer is that she has, in her near-death experience, seen living family members. Living family. So, in the interest of, 2 times. In the interest of full disclosure here, the seeing of a living family member just goes against all of the data, okay? But the reason I'm putting this near-death experience out is because it, regardless of how you feel about the accuracy, I'm really, I can't say either way. But I think it's important that even if it isn't, you still have to take everything into account, and that's all. But it just has to be said that it goes against near-death experience data. And remember, I tell you I'm all about patterns. Where do a lot of the patterns lead? And specifically with living family members, the patterns go towards being deceased time and time again. So again, make of it what you will, but let's get into it. I think it's important. It's a good lesson in discernment at a minimum, and a good exercise on further helping yourself prove the Matrix reincarnation soul trap to yourself as well. So either way, there is a benefit to hearing something like this. And so let's get into it. Just be one moment while I pull up the video feed. Okay. If one of you don't mind, please let me know how my mic sounds. I had it all configured before I came on, and it looks like the levels just jumped up huge. So I don't want it sounding distorted for you guys now or during the replay. If you don't mind, I'd really appreciate that. Thank you. Okay, sounds good? Okay, great. So let's get into, I appreciate that. Let's get into Sue Ingram's testimony. Now, this was very recent. This was the Life After Life Club in Laguna Woods, California on October 2nd, 2021. And I also have another one that we're going to play from her. Not sure if we might go through all of it. It's only about 10 or 11 minutes, the second one. This first one's an hour, so just to let you know in advance. And the second one, like I said, is about 10, 11, 12 minutes, something like that. But she's also interviewed, and the interviewer asks her, what do you think about your near-death experience and the fact that you saw a living family? What do you make of that? So the person was on the ball with knowing what questions to ask, and I give them credit for that. So, but that's going to be a little later. And so let's get into it.
Welcome, everybody. I'm glad to see you all. I'm glad to see you're interested in the afterlife. Who here is afraid of death? Anybody? Are you afraid of death? Is my question. He didn't hear. No, okay. You're curious, though, aren't you? All right, yes. Well, I had no clue what happened to me until 30 years later. December 17th, 1966, I was driving on the Pennsylvania Turnpike. Has anybody ever driven the Pennsylvania Turnpike? Then you know all the tunnels on that turnpike. Well, it was winter. There was snow all over the ground. It was very cold, so the snow had a coating of ice that glistened when the sun hit it, and it looked like a bunch of diamonds. And I was just admiring a beautiful sunny winter day. And I was driving down the road, and I went through one tunnel, and I came out, and I was heading towards another tunnel, and all of a sudden I heard a gunshot, or what I thought was a gunshot, just as I entered the tunnel. The gunshot wasn't a gunshot, it was a blowout. And I was in a tunnel. And my car wound up being in a perfect ball by the time I exited the tunnel. And I remember opening my eyes. I saw blue and green with flashing lights. I closed my eyes, and the next thing I noticed, I was up on the ceiling in a room in a hospital watching a doctor and a nurse and other office hospital staff trying to revive a body on the table. I had no clue what was going on, but I was amazed because if I focused on someone, I knew everything about that person. And I thought, wow, this is fascinating. I focused on the doctor. He was having an affair. He's been having an affair for a long time. He's also was in a high-stress job, but he wasn't handling losing patients. And apparently he had lost several patients over the past couple years, and he wanted to quit his profession. And my heart went out to him. Then I focused on the nurse next to him, and I knew everything about her. And I turned and I saw a police officer in the emergency room, knew everything about him. And I thought, whoa, this is fun. And there was a little girl who, I don't know if they're called candy stripers, they're little volunteers, young teenagers in a hospital. And she came in and her eyes were as big as saucers, and she was terrified because she walked into this messy operating room to bring him some paperwork. And I knew everything about her. She was going to quit that same day, by the way. So it took me a while to figure out it was me on the table that they were working on. And I was up above on the ceiling. So I thought, well, I'm getting bored here. So I went up through the ceiling to the next floor of the hospital. The next floor happened to be a solarium. Well, no one was in the solarium. It was wintertime. So I went up to the next level of the hospital. And there was the rooms that have like 5 patients in them. I think they're called wards. And there were a group of men in the ward to the left. And I focused, oh, this guy is going to die in an hour. And this one, oh, his friend is coming. He hasn't seen this guy in like 20 years.
Again, I think this NDE is a good lesson in discernment. You're going to hear she runs the gamut in a lot of things. And I don't necessarily find it that crazy that someone has multiple NDEs, because we read about how, people go in and out of these things too, where they do have multiple ones, particularly, people are in the hospital for extended periods of time, people going in and out of comas, and they recall multiple NDEs. But a lot of times you'll notice they're more or less lumping them together. They're not flat out saying, oh, I had, NDE 1, NDE 2, NDE 3, yada yada. And, she's saying, she's reading everybody and knowing their death and stuff like that, which can happen. I mean, that is a data point to consider. It's just the collective of things is just it's a little much, and you'll see where I'm going with this as we go through this.
He's going to be so surprised. This one's going home. This one's going to stay here until he dies. And I just focused on the room across the hall, which is the ward for women. And I knew everything about them over there, too. And I thought, well, okay, now that I know everything, and I started raising up. And as I was raising up out of the hospital, I noticed I had an umbilical cord, and it was opalescent in color, like the milky opal.
And with the cords, happens in NDEs, happens in astral projection, can happen in trips, people who take DMT, ayahuasca, acid, even high doses of mushrooms. It's all about if you get through that breakthrough experience. That's what the term is used for when they basically launch fully out of their body into basically another realm. You'll often see testimony of a cord being attached to them.
But it stretched. So I went up. I was out of the hospital. I saw a nurse walking. She parked at the furthest parking spot. She was trying to lose weight. She was doing her best. We all try to do our best for ourselves. So I went up a little bit higher, and pretty soon I saw the whole block that the hospital was in. And then I kept going up, and pretty soon I saw the county that the hospital was in. And I kept going up, and I was amazed that I was so relaxed over all of this. It was just a journey. It was fun. It was informative. It was peaceful. I mean, what more can you ask for on a trip? So I kept going up, and all of a sudden, it was the big blue marble, like you see from space missions, that the Earth looks like a big blue marble. And I was fascinated with that. I thought, this is beautiful. They were telling the truth. It does look like a blue marble. So I kept going.
All right, so looks like a blue marble. Okay, that's suspicious to me. But there's been plenty of NDEs that I fully know are real and have heard the same thing. So again, even though we live in a holographic realm here, there's plenty of testimony of people looking down at Earth as if it's almost like a ledge or even just an open space. I think it depends on the distance that they are looking down. Even though they're in an astral body, there is a perception of distance. So that's a little weird to me too, but it can't be discounted because there are plenty of NDEs again that see, planets as we are told, and all sorts of realms that would resemble what we have been told is space. So keep that in mind.
Up, and I thought, oh, wait a minute. I don't know where I'm going. So I flipped over, and it was under the Milky Way. And the Milky Way was massive, and it had 1 million stars in it. And I had a thought, where am I going? And all of a sudden, this little medium...
Okay, so where am I going? Doesn't know where she's going. So she is just being led there, just on autopilot, so to say. Again, I like to point out the moment in the movie Soul by Disney Pixar, because it's a really important point. And, she's not saying, oh, I'm like a zombie and dazed out, but, she's asking herself, where is she going? So that implies that there's no familiarity with any of this. But granted, she did just leave her body. But going back to Soul, there's a moment early on in the film where you see Joe, the main character. It's right after he drops in the manhole and ends up going towards the light. And as he's going towards the light, he's like, oh no, I must be dead, this and that. And he starts turning around and going the opposite direction as if he's going back towards Earth. And he's running across people, some who are perfectly able to talk and communicate with him, and then others who are just like, like a totally dazed. just fixated, going towards the light, not asking questions, not doing anything, not communicating, and just on autopilot. So just want to throw that in there because that movie does reveal a lot of truths, but it's also extremely deceptive. But talk about for someone who's researching the soul trap and needs just further evidence, that is a must-see. That is a must-see animation film. It's excellent.
Size star said, "This is where you're going." And I was in the star going through the tunnel of light. And that tunnel of light, as I was going in it, I was hearing music. People were greeting me, "Hi, welcome, welcome." And then I saw my mother. And I thought, well, why is my mother here? She's alive down on Earth. But she was there greeting me. And that puzzled me a lot. But I kept going through the light, and I said, no.
Okay. Let's just rewind that briefly.
Greeting me, "Hi, welcome, welcome." And then I saw my mother.
Okay, so hi, welcome, welcome. You know, like the welcome wagon is here. We've talked about this a ton of times on the channel about where there is this like welcoming committee that appears either leading up to and at the time of death and onwards right after, specifically in near-death experiences I'm referring to, obviously, because those are the recollections we have of people coming back and sharing their story, but they sometimes experience this welcome wagon. I often bring up the correlation with the NDE'S who feel like they walk into a stadium, but the stadium is the life review arena, and everyone's cheering for them like, yeah, you did it, blah, blah. So, similar situation here. She's being greeted and cheered on, basically.
And I thought, well, why is my mother here? She's alive down on Earth.
There you go. This is the major anomaly in this near-death experience. This cannot be stated enough how important this moment is in her testimony. Because again, the data for near-death experiences overwhelmingly, I don't even know what the percentage is, but it's got to be in the high 90s. The number of people who interact with beings and they recognize are always deceased. So this is extremely rare. And again, that can't be stated enough. So please keep this in mind.
But she was there greeting me. And that puzzled me a lot.
Puzzles me.
But I kept going through the light, and I said, no, I need to get to the light. The urge to get back to the source.
The urge. Again, there's this euphoric yearning, this euphoric need to get to the light. And that's all part of the trap. Again, the love is so powerful. We've said this before too, that again, mothers will say that the light is 10, 100, 1,000 times more powerful than any love that they've ever felt, more powerful than the birth of their own children. And I'm going to be, I have a video coming up very soon that is going to be dedicated just to love and NDEs. I'll be breaking down NDEs specifically under the category of the love bomb and how powerful it is.
Was so strong. I didn't going through the light, and I said, no, I need to get to the light. The urge to get back to the source was so strong, I didn't care about anything else. So I finally got to the source. You can call it what you want. I don't know what religions you are, whether it's God, Buddha, Allah, Krishna, they're all the same. It's the energy source of our Creator. It doesn't have either sex. It's non-sexual. It's just this magnificent power of unconditional love that you can't even begin to understand the concept of. And I said,
Can't even begin to understand the concept of how powerful it is. Can't even get there. Impossible. I mean, again, this is how powerful a thing we are talking about. It's intense.
finally, I'm here. I said, why was my life so tough? And they said, don't you remember?
Why was my life so tough? Big question, right? Big question. Well, it's your fault.
I said, remember what? And they said, you sat down with the council and you chose what you came to this lifetime to learn.
Okay, again, we have the council showing up. We've gone over the council a zillion times in the Michael Newton commentary books, Journey of Souls, Destiny of Souls. If you want a glaring look into that, I highly recommend both those series. Start with Journey of Souls and then watch Destiny of Souls. In order, please, or the full effect.
And you chose this and this and this, and we said, whoa, wait a minute. Only choose a couple things.
Okay, you can mark my words. They're not doing that. They're not doing that. They want you as overly invested, distracted, and as much suffering as possible. That's the goal. So they're not going to be talking anybody out of anything. That much is clear. Now, for those that are new, that might sound weird, but over time, if you keep watching the channel and go back in the videos, you'll see where that comes from.
No, but I can do it all. I want to do it all. I want to learn all the lessons I'm here to learn. So they brought in more guides that said, don't you remember, we argued with you. You're real stubborn.
Oh, yeah, sure.
And we told you that's too much. And I said, no, I want to try it and do it all. So they let me. Big mistake. Listen to your guides when you do this again.
Wrong. There will be no guides. Okay, let's get that on the table right now, because there will be no guides. Guides aren't telling us to do anything, because this is the end of the road. This is the last time. It's done. It's over. There'll be no more fuckery up in this place. I'll tell you that much.
So I said, okay, I understand that. And they said, well, we have a question for you. Oh. And I said, what? And they said, what do you regret in your lifetime? That's a biggie.
Too much background? Oh, on your end, okay.
When you think back about your lifetime, how many things do you regret? I had one thing in particular I really regretted.
Now wait till you hear how pathetic this is. And this is no offense to Sue. It's I mean, if this is what Sue had, as her karmic burden, so to say, when she arrives at the pearly gates, well, it's ridiculous.
I had a neighborhood boy who tormented me all the time. He would not leave me alone. He would make sure he would throw things at me and make me fall. He would do all kinds of things. Well, one day I had it, and I went after him. And I got him, and then I got punished for it. But that was the one thing I regretted, that I hurt another human being.
I mean, what is she, a saint here? I mean, I don't know about you guys. Maybe, I haven't been too nasty in my life, but I've done way more screwed up things than get revenge on someone who's been harassing me my entire childhood as a child. Again, like we've talked about in other videos too, I know I keep saying that, but it's important because there is a whole backlog of evidence you can go through. And for someone to be guilt tripped as a child, and have it thrown back at them when they're, on their way out, there's something really, really wrong with that. It's not like she was slaughtering animals and putting all this carnage all over the place. She was the one who was being messed with. And she said, I have enough. I've had enough. I'm going to finally go at it. Let's go.
So I said, all right, that's about it that I regret mostly. And they said, okay, you actually achieved what you went down to that plane to learn. Oh, good, I did it. And then they said, or you can have what's behind door number 2. And they cracked this door open, and the brightness of the light and the amount of love pouring out of that exceeded the love that I was in already that I thought couldn't be exceeded.
Can't be exceeded. Overpowering love. Door number 2, the lure of everything. The one thing that, again, every near-death experiencer has, or not every, I'm sorry, every near-death experiencer that experiences the love bomb, this is the type of wording they use. Of course, not every near-death experiencer has these crazy, amazing love experiences. But there are a ton of them. And then you have the hell-like near-death experiences too, obviously. Excuse me. But, again, the amount of power we're talking about here is absurd.
And I said, oh, that's tempting.
Ooh.
So I get to go back if I choose, but I can stay if I choose not to go back. And they said, yes, everything's fine. And I said, well, if I choose to go back, is that doctor meant to stay a doctor? And if I go back, he will stay a doctor?
Okay. I just gotta say, my friends, most people, okay, who have these experiences and they're egged on to come back, I mean, they're not really worried about the doctor, okay? They're more when they have to go through this, first off, they never want to come back most of the time. But if they do, it's because the manipulation system rolls out a bunch of different things, and in my opinion, also sends like an energy blast, okay, along with it. So you have the love bomb, or you have a guilt trip, which is usually in the form of something like, your mother, your father, your children, maybe even a very close pet. It's really, really big, heavy relationships. Not your doctor, okay? So that needs to be said. It's just, and what'll also happen is if they can't get you to go back with, let's just say your father, and then they can't get you with your kid, then they'll be like, oh, well, your mother's still dying of cancer down there. She needs some help. Can you get down there? And then it's just, again, they'll go through the list. They'll just roll out the red carpet of fuckery until you pick something and go along with it. And then you end up back here. So it's just very odd to me that it's the doctor is the link in this experience.
And they said, yes. I said, so he's meant to be a doctor. He's going to save other lifetimes, right? And they said, yes. I said, send me back. I want to give him that gift. And
So again, they claim that the doctor, she's being told. Now remember, she was all knowing just a few minutes ago. Okay, just a little while ago, she knew everything. She knew death dates. She knew this. She knew that. Now she's up here and she's asking all these questions about the doctor. How come she doesn't know? She went from all knowing to, being asking all these questions to something outside of herself, and in turn, she's getting the answer. So, make of it what you will.
I was in my body, like, boom, that fast.
That fast.
So then I wake up in a hospital, and I'm waking up. There's a guy at the end of my bed, all dressed in black, praying in a Bible of some kind. So I thought, I don't know who this guy is. And I would pass out. I'd wake up again, he was still there. Every time I opened my eyes, this guy was there. And one time I was coherent enough. By the way, my skull was split open and my brain was all swollen. So I wasn't too aware for a while. And so I asked them, I said, who are you? And he says, oh, my wife's dying in the bed next to me. You need the prayers. And I said, okay. And I passed out again. I spent a couple days doing that, awake and pass out, awake, pass out. And then I looked out the next time I remember waking up, and I'm looking out the door of my hospital room. There's these women. They're all dressed head to toe in black or brown. I went, this does not compute. I don't know who these people are. They're dressed weird. And then I would pass out again. And every time I would wake up, I'd say, did I hurt anybody? I don't want to hurt anybody. Did I hurt anybody? And they would not tell me. And that devastated me, that they wouldn't say, no, you didn't hurt anybody. You're okay. You hurt yourself. But they wouldn't tell me that. And that really bothered me. Come to find out, I also had amnesia. But I remembered my whole death journey, and I tried to tell them. I said, but I went someplace. You got to hear my story. No, you're brain damaged. No, you got to understand. No, we don't want to hear it. So for like 30 some odd years, no one would listen to my story. And I was really in a funny place because it was a beautiful story to tell people, but no one wanted to hear it. Until I divorced my husband, moved back to New England.
Now, again, divorce rates are extremely high amongst those who have near-death experiences, because they come back here a different person. And, the next year or two afterwards is usually very difficult. And a lot of times they'll go through therapy. They're trying different things to kind of get themselves back on track, because they just came from this amazing experience where they're not attached to the meat suit anymore and are pushed back into this dense materialistic reality, and it's depressing. It can be very difficult for them, and my heart goes out to anyone who had a near-death experience, because it cannot be easy. It's got to be very, very difficult.
And went to hear a speaker talk at one of their special venues, and the speaker was talking about past life regression. And I thought, I know nothing about this subject. I'm curious.
Now this gets interesting and a little weird, but it's all right. I mean, I shouldn't say weird, because Lord knows we're into lots of weird stuff on this channel together, right? So
I went to hear him talk, and he brought up near-death experience. Mm-hmm. I got to talk to this guy.
Gotta talk to
I
him.
don't know what that means, but I think that's what I had. So for that, over 30 years, I did not even know what it was called that I experienced.
Which is common.
So I talked to him after the whole meeting broke up, and he says, you've got to go to the University of Connecticut in Fairfield. That's where all the research and death experiences started. So I went and I connected with the people there at a meeting. And they went around the room. There were about 40 people in a meeting room. And everybody would introduce themselves. And they would introduce one name, first name only, first, last, it didn't matter to anybody. And why were you here? One person says, my name is Mary, and I'm here because I lost someone. The next person say, my name is Joe, and I'm here because I'm curious as all get out what the other side is like. And then the next person would say, my name's Barbara, and I've had a death experience. And I'd go, ooh, 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 I want to hear this story.
I just want to say, if you ever get an opportunity to go to one of these meetings, oh, I cannot suggest it enough. Some of them are just for experiencers only, and then there are others that are a mix between, open invite, anyone can show up and just be respectful, listen, and you can even contribute in a small way too, but depending on the format of the meeting. But if you can make it to some of these and you have a local group, I highly, highly recommend going, because you can learn a lot and hear all sorts of different things.
And then they went around. Everybody got their choice. When it came to me, I said, my name is Sue, and maybe I had one. I don't know. And so they finished going around the room to everybody. And then the person running the meeting said, Sue, we want to hear your story. And I said, no one wants to hear my story. And I started crying. I said, because I held it in for so long, and I've asked people so many times, and they didn't want to hear about it. And they said, we do. And I just bursted out crying. And they held me. Grizz held me. He was an experiencer. And the room stayed quiet until I finished bawling my eyes out. And then I started telling the story, and they started saying, yep, you're an experiencer, all right, yep. And they validated me. And that was the first time in my life that I felt like I wasn't crazy, and that other people understood and experienced the same thing that I did.
Yeah, I mean, this is, again, very, very common. My heart goes out to anyone who's had these experiences. They're very difficult to grasp with, especially like if you're in a family that is overly religious and stuck in dogma, or stuck in materialism and just will not budge. It is extremely difficult. So, this is, when you hear something like this, it's sad. It's sad because it is a common thing. It's not as bad now, but still, it depends on your family environment. It depends. Do you know near-death experiences are even a thing? Our society is very good at not giving us information. If you want information about the different things in life, or about anything of value, frankly, you have to go out and dig on your own. And the near-death experience category is no different. People are just blocked from this information, and it's absolutely disgusting.
And then someone announced, well, the meeting's over with. And I said, no one can go. I need to talk to people. And they said, well, didn't you read any books on the subject? I said, I didn't even know what it was called. How could I read a book on it if you can't find out what it was called? So they gave me a list of books and stuff, and they said, but we continue our meeting at a restaurant down the hill. So we went down there, and I was there till 2 in the morning when they closed the restaurant. And I drove 78 miles back to my home so I could go to take a shower and go to work the next morning. And they met once a month. And they explain that there are groups all over the country, all over the world.
And there are.
That are trying to support the people who have had these experiences.
Yeah, if you just do a search online, you can go and find them. And they divide them up where you can see which ones are public, which ones are private. And of course, because of all this crap going on, they have online ones too, depending on where you live. Some of the meetings have started up again, and other locations they haven't.
And I couldn't get enough of the books, the people, their stories.
Me too.
And our abilities that we come back with once we had the experience.
Some come back. A lot do, but some do. And she goes over this soon.
I've found home, other than the home I found when I had my death experience, my first one. The second one happened in a surgery. It changes your life, and it makes it very hard to be here in this plane, because you know that God only wants you to love and support one another, whether you have the same belief systems, whether you agree with their choices or not. Just be kind and treat them like you want to be treated.
Okay, let's just get this straight. God, source, I like to say creator, because we're all creator beings, okay? And what the creator does is the creator creates. The creator doesn't need to be worshipped. It doesn't need to be bowed down to, none of that, okay? Because that's how we're in this mess, okay? That's how we all are all in this mess, okay? And nobody's an exception. If you're here on Earth, it's because you gave your consent away to something outside yourself. And in turn, you have this experience. You gave consent to give large portions of your true essence in exchange for this materialistic experience. Now, what's crazy about it is that it extends out into the astral realm. Not all of the astral realm, but the astral realms attached to this control structure work in unison together in an effort to continually get you to consent to coming back here or being involved in something out there. But as long as you're still within the confines of the control structure, they don't care. But guess what? Eventually, you'll end up back here. Okay? So it's really, really, really important to understand where consent comes into all of this, and where worshiping outside of yourself can get you in trouble. You can have respect. I have respect. Good Lord. I mean, look at just some of the stuff we know about. It's impressive. It's extremely impressive. But a lot of people, with the worshiping God thing, that's where we get in trouble. Okay, respect, fine. Worship is a big, big no. And how do these people know they're dealing with God? It's because they feel like they're dealing with God. And you heard it in the beginning. She said herself, it doesn't matter if it's Buddha, Muhammad, Jesus, etc., etc. They're all the same thing. Well, it seems down here that everybody thinks they got it right. Everyone who's in a religion thinks that the God that they are signed up to is got it right. And the God in the Bible, I'm sorry, the God in the Bible is an absolute psychopath. Okay? Let's just call it what it is. All right? But don't give yourself away. Please. This is the crux of it all. Consent. Don't give your power away. Don't give your power away, my friends. That's how we got here. That's how we keep coming back here. Those days are over. They're over. I noticed as soon as I said the God in the Bible's a psychopath, I lost people. Oh well.
Understand and give them the compassion and the space to be who they are so you can be who you are. And it's hard when you come back and you see this materialistic world and find out that everybody has their focus in the wrong place. And one of the ladies I met at that group committed suicide. She tried to commit suicide because she couldn't take it here after having her experience.
That's a common thing. I mean, not as, a lot of people, again, the depression, the anxiety, they have suicidal ideation. The act of it, I don't know what the numbers are on that, but it's easy to understand that, when you shed this body, you're free of the pain and the suffering and everything that comes along with it. And then you enter something like a super love bomb realm that you think is God. You bet your ass you're going to want to go back there.
So we have our own issues as experiencers, just like people here having their own issues, whether it's a health issue, emotional, a family issue, or what have you. And I'm very thankful. I've been in research programs with Raymond Moody and Ken Ring and several of.
Now, see, Raymond Moody, Ken Ring, those are the heavyweights of NDE research. So when I heard that, there has to be that has to be taken into account. I would love to talk with both of them one-on-one about her case and see where they stand. Perhaps they've written something about her. I haven't found anything like that yet, but again, her situation is so rare that she, again, seeing living family, that's just almost unheard of in NDE research.
The other people who started the research into this subject matter, and there's plenty of good books out there, and there are some that aren't so good. PMH Atwater wrote a great one called Coming Back to Life. Her book was excellent. She's written several books. So we all have similarities to our experiences. We all have different experiences. Like Al had an experience where he met the Grim Reaper because he always believed when he died, the Grim Reaper was what he would see.
There's a belief system, right? You got a belief system that you're going to see the Grim Reaper when you die. Well, guess what? The Matrix is probably going to set that up for you down the road. Just saying. Belief systems are the pinnacle of how they get us to come back here. So it's again, the love bomb, yeah, that's a big one. Attachments to our loved ones that we were with down here in this incarnation, and soul group families that we're also involved with. All these things are hooks to get you to go. So you believe Grim Reaper is going to come, you're going to have probably a crappy start to your afterlife or near-death experience. Most likely.
And so that's what he did see. But when he talked to the Grim Reaper said, well, you created me, so I'm here.
You created me, so I'm here. again, NDE research proves this. Belief-based systems carry over and help propel the near-death experience. And it's customized. Remember, everything is customized to your belief system in some way, shape, or form. Some of it could be subconscious, too. Not just what you are hell-bent on. It could be just stuff that's brewing out there since you were a kid, and maybe you fell into science or something and didn't really have much, but maybe you grew up as as a kid for the first 10, 15 years as a Christian or something. You know what I'm saying? And then that is accessed later on in the near-death experience or at death itself.
So Al said, well, I think you need to go. So he did. So his experience turned out to be a nice experience of choice. And
of choice.
So we can laugh about death. Some of us kidded, and some people are shocked that we kid about death, and we can't wait to go. Man, I'm going to have a party.
The only people that are shocked are those that have been indoctrinated with the fear of death because of society and because of the way the school system is and the way it's been passed down, again, generation by generation. Just like in the childhood development video I just did, it's passed down from generation after generation after generation, and so the system just keeps going and going and going. That's why the root approach to this is when the child is between the age 0 to 7,
And it's a wonderful group of people that have blessed my life, and I'm not afraid of anything in this life anymore. So I try anything and everything I can to live life to the fullest and to the best that I can, and hopefully I leave a little mark of kindness with everybody that I meet. And
that's nice.
I can tell you a little bit about my second experience. That one was a real quickie. I was having a surgery, and I tell the doctors, like I tell them all the time, A, I don't handle drugs well. B, I'm tiny. Don't give me what you give a 200-pound person. And so they were giving me a saddle block like they give every woman who is giving birth anymore. And he gave it to me, and he gave it to me too fast, and he lost me, and I went out. I went right to the light, but I was blocked by about 4 people.
Went right to the light and was blocked by 4 people. Blocked. Not allowed.
That wanted me to go party and drink with them and everything. I'm there. No.
Want to go party and drink with them. I guess because the anesthesia may be considered some sort of party frequency, possibly. Just throwing that out there. I'm not saying that's the case, but with some suicidal or suicide attempts with near-death experiences, we see the egging on of partying, but also many lessons learned attached with it too. So that's just something to keep in mind. Not saying that this is the reason why in her case, but it's interesting.
That's not my style. Well, you can't go to the light. I says, look.
You can't go.
If I can't go to the light, I'm going back.
What kind of twisted option is that? If I can't go to the light, then I'm going back to Earth, God damn it. Come on, man. Oh, God. That's it. If I can't be sucked into the love bomb, then I'm going back to Earth. And I can't wait. Even though I already had a near-death experience years ago, and I didn't want to come back then, now I'm having my second one, and that's it. Let's turn this bus around.
Because I have choices. No, you got to stay and drink and party with... no.
I have choices. Predetermined choices. Not of your own making. Choices. How about you have the ability to consent or not consent?
I am going back. My choice. And I did. I came back. Well, the anesthesiologist said, I'm going to put you out. And I said, honey, you put me way out. And you will not give me any more stuff because I will haunt you and every member of your family for every lifetime that they are on this planet. Do you got it? And he was like, and my surgeon said, she's numb. Just talk to her, you know. And so they finished the surgery and I was fine, a little shook up, but I was fine. I thought, well, I handled that okay.
Well, see, it's just weird to me that someone would have a second NDE this many years later and decide to come back. I mean, either way, it's not a good situation because you're confronted with something trying to prevent you from doing whatever your true heart's desire is, which in this case is she wanted to go past these beings. Instead, they're trying to block her and, you know, hey, let's party, yada, yada, yada. And then she goes, ah, I'm hightailing my ass back to Earth. What? What? Doesn't make much sense.
But it's a journey that we all take. It's always our last journey. But some get choices, some don't. And
some get choices, some don't. Now let's just, okay. This is a big, big statement for her to make, okay? Now, yes, if I was a near-death experience researcher, I would be, I mean, you know, or if I had access, you know, to the type of information that the big guns have, who dedicate their lives to this type of thing. I would like to see the trends, the data trends, with those who were, quote unquote, forced back, okay? And those who agreed to come back. There's also, this is really, really important to not forget too. And it's present in NDE'S, not all of them, but it's present, where they openly admit that we're gonna erase your mind. We're gonna wipe your memory. Because if we didn't, blah, 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 blah. And in my upcoming love video, I'm going to show an amazing example of it. So keep an eye out for that one. But the perception of being able to choose or not is an interesting one because it goes to the belief system, the psychology, the makeup of the individual, the strength within. Now, mind you, most people don't know that this whole thing is a reincarnation soul trap. So if you don't know that you have the power to say, hey, get out of my face. I'm doing what the hell I want. I don't consent, yada, yada. I'm moving on. I'm out of this realm. Well, then you're just open season for these things. You're just readily available to be messed with and recycled back into the system or thrown right back down here and continue your life until you're out of here. And then you just repeat it all over again.
If it's your last journey, make it count. It is something to embrace, something to not be afraid of, something to be happy because on the other side you are a jillion times happier and more loved than you ever are here on this plane.
Yeah. Let's continue.
This is like a schoolhouse for us.
I can't stand that. I can't. It's just the whole, Earth is a school thing is just so overplayed. Again, Earth has the biggest case of Stockholm Syndrome on steroids the universe has ever seen. Because everyone just confirms and discounts anything bad that happens. Again, if these beings are so loving, so powerful, so amazing, so on our side, how come this place hasn't been uprooted and fixed already? Or destroyed? Pick one. Either fix it or destroy it, but don't continue this endless cycle of suffering all the time. It's absurd. So whoever the hell's running the show up there, if you want to call it God, is doing a pretty damn horrible job. Let's just call it what it is. Again, we like to be honest here together. We don't like to beat around the bush and make excuses and yada 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 for all the horse shit going on down here. And the whole time it's been going on, it hasn't stopped. As far back as we have records for, this has been going on. It's nothing new. I ask all the time, present me something where there is a utopia Earth, where there's a positive timeline, as the New Age like to call it. Oh, I'm going to my positive timeline. Well, you know what? Your positive timeline's full of shit. Because there isn't any. But that doesn't mean you should. Again, I know I freak out once in a while, and it's all because I'm passionate about it. But the reason is because it's the atrocities and everything that's happening here that gets me fired up. It's all the injustices. Think about everything that's happening with children and on all different scales across the world. A lot of us are lucky that we live where we live. But there are many, many, many places in this realm where it is miserable from cradle to grave. Okay? And that's not right. That's not right. So when you start to learn about the reincarnation soul trap and you start proving it to yourself, again, my channel should only be a stepping stone for your own research. I am not here to tell anyone what to do, this or that. All I'm doing is acting as a small... I'm just trying to show some guidance, okay? For you to take the initiative and prove it to yourself. Because if you can't prove it to yourself, and you're just taking my word for it, that means you don't have that inner burning knowing. And you have to have that inner knowing. It's so, so important, because once you have the inner knowing, then when you're crossing over and getting the hell out of here, you have that burning intention not to consent to any of this. You see what I'm saying? That's why it's so important. And I stress it. I stress it so much because you have to go out there and prove it to yourself. Again, my channel should only be a stepping stone. Just take advantage of some of the content here. But if you don't like my style, fine. No big deal. Go out and prove it to yourself. All the information's out there. I don't claim to have special sources or anything. You can do this, my friends. If you don't like my style, again, I get it. I know I'm a little wild sometimes, but that's because it's passion. It's coming from the heart.
Every lifetime we elevate ourselves and graduate to different levels. So if anyone has any questions, I'm open to questions. Yes.
Did you learn much about reincarnation? Did you learn anything about that in your...
Well, that I did it. There are, you view other lifetimes that you've had, and based on that, you get to choose the lessons you want to learn or the achievements you want to do in the current lifetime that you're choosing with your guides. So, yeah, there are other lifetimes. There are books. There's one book called The Boy Who Knew True. And it was a little boy in India who was born to a family. And they were out shopping one day. And he saw a woman. And he ran to her and he called her by her name. He knew everything about her and her family. He happened to be a child of that family who died and reincarnated to connect back with the family. And it's a very tiny little book. It's about 30, 40 pages, if I'm remembering right. And it was a wonderful story, and it's proven.
When you spoke with the council members,
Yes,
or the people who were giving the information,
They were your guides, they were people, did they look like humans?
No, they're on the other side. It's all energy. Everything is energy. It's just like this table is energy, but it's so condensed that we perceive it as a table.
It's a hologram, guys. Even Earth is a hologram. Everything, this is a holographic reality. And it's the same thing out there.
But the energy on the other side, which we are all part of, this body is controlling our energy, our source, our soul.
It's containing our spirit and soul and quarantining and putting a governor on it.
And on the other side, everything is non-shaped thing. You just perceive it as God or as your guide or as an angel. Or
You just perceive it. Openly admitting, you're just perceiving it. What's Earth? Earth is the king of all perception management. If you don't know that, Earth is all about managing your perception and manipulating and deceiving you in an effort to keep you in line, ooh, you're a little behind on the curve, and that's all right. But that's what this place is all about. It's about managing your perception and logging subconscious thoughts in you all the time that keeps you running on autopilot, just constantly.
whereas, because that's the energy they give off.
I'm just curious about the party people that you ran into. I've been involved in facilitating regressions before, and anything can happen, but I'm curious what your take on that is.
My take, they were a test for me, and I've been regressed before. In fact, the gentleman who gave the talk about regression therapy took me about 6 months to get brave enough to be regressed. And it was interesting because when he regressed me, he asked me to put a list of questions. And then he asked me, can I ask a question once all your questions are answered? And I said, yes. So I drove to his home where he did the regression. And he regressed me, and I'm very sensitive and emotional, so a few of the things that came up in regression, I would cry, and he'd bring me up to the clouds, bring me up. No, I want to be down there. I want to face that, And so when we were all done, he said, now can I ask my question? And I said, yes. And he said, were you and I ever in a lifetime together? And I'm going through the lifetimes, and I'm going through time and space, and I'm going through time. And all of a sudden I went, Daddy, you're my daddy. And I started bawling, and he up to the, I know, me back down. You're my daddy. You used to sit with me and explain all these little bugs and what their purpose in life were, and you loved me so much, and blah, blah, blah. And we went on, and by the time I got through, he was crying. And he checked out the name I gave him.
Now, mind you, she doesn't share the name. A lot of people who go through past life regression and are fortunate enough to find a name and a trail to go along with it, they are more than ready to share it, particularly when they're doing public speaking.
The area that we lived in, and he found evidence that I existed. So
Found evidence that I exist.
Yeah, that was a shocker. In fact, when I went in to hear him speak,
Did you hear this?
I was running late, which I'm never late, and he was coming in behind me. And while I'm waiting in line to pay the $5 to attend this speech, I turned to him and said, "You and I are going to be the best of friends for many years." And I thought, why did I say that to him? It was just something instinctive in me that says, tell him. And then I went and I hid in the back row of the audience. And sure enough, we wound up being good friends for like 18 years. And we lost touch because I've moved several times. And
You lost touch. I mean, it's just odd to me. Very odd. There's nothing to really go along with this. You have this moment where you're calling him daddy, and then all of a sudden it just, the whole thing goes away. There's no names, nothing. You know, it just has to be said. I mean,
stuff, but yeah, past life regression is quite interesting. Yeah, and it's funny, I've known something about people without knowing who they were or never meeting them before, and I tell them, and they go, "How do you know?" I just got a message, thank you. And I take off because a lot of people don't handle that well. Yes?
No, I was just going to ask if you've had other experiences, psychic experiences during your life.
Oh, many experiences.
Tell us some.
I remember I was about 4 or 5, about this high next to my mother in church saying, God didn't want this. This isn't God's idea of what religion and Catholicism should be.
You know what's really weird is I felt this too when I was a kid, but I didn't really, I didn't say it like that, or I just knew something was really, really wrong with the whole thing. Just odd.
And I saw the hypocrisy of people going into church and praying and then turn around and sinning the rest of the week and then coming back and thinking they're all absolved the next week. I've known that people were hurt. Actually, the guy I called Dad from my regression therapist, he was on a trip to California, Central State. He and his 2 sons were taking a bike ride trip. I'm sitting in Massachusetts having my morning coffee going, oh God, this is so good. I need to wake up. And all of a sudden you go, oh, he's hurt. So I thought, I don't know what happened. All I know is he got hurt. So I call his wife and I says, hey, when's Dad coming home? And so I said, well, not until this coming weekend. And I says, emergency, have him call me right away. He calls me when he gets in, and I said, how was your trip? He goes, oh, we did this, we did that, we rode here, we did that. And I said, okay, you're leaving something out. He says, what am I leaving out? I says, you got hurt, you got hit by a car. How did you know? What date? What time? You know that? And I said, yeah, I got it when I was drinking my morning coffee. And he validated that the cop said, you're going to be checked out because you're not continuing this bike ride until you do get checked out. And he forced him to go get checked out, and then he continued the bike ride. So there are things like that. I know that I've gotten off the freeway, or I've slowed down and pulled over knowing that an accident was going to happen.
Premonition?
It's just, there was a young man working, my friend Barbara, who was an experiencer. She ran a startup company. She graduated MIT. And she had a young man who used to come to our meetings and take copious notes. This guy probably could fill this room up with all the notes from all the meetings he's attended.
I would love to meet that guy. Give me that guy's name. Please, Sue. I would love his name.
And he would sit up in the meeting and says, well, how did you know that? And I says, go check your notes. We all come back with something that we either read bodies for health, we heal people, we all have these little abilities we come back with.
They don't all have it, but a lot of them do. They come back with something, and at a minimum, a lot of the times, they also are helping themselves. Now, you have this narrative that they knew the answer to every question. They knew this, they knew that. But they come back here, and the knowledge that they're sharing overall is not that impressive. It can help the individual and maybe those that they're around, but on a realm-wide scale or any massive scale, no. That's just not the case.
And so I called Barbara up. I said, he hurt his toe. And she goes, what? Now she's in Connecticut. I'm working in northern Massachusetts. I'm at work and I go, he hurt his toe. So we had a meeting the next week. She said, okay, I'll check it out. So next meeting comes, he comes. I said, oh no, you're going to come sit near me right here. I don't want to sit near you. I scared him. And I said, no, you have to come sit near me. I said, because no matter where you sit, I'll go sit near you. He had no choice. So I said, so you hurt your toe. And being a smart-ass young man, he says, bet you don't know what toe I hurt. So during the meeting, I'm starting to draw a foot on a piece of paper. Now, usually people either hurt the big toe or the little toe. He hurt the toe next to the little toe. So I draw an arrow to that little toe. He got up and he left. I ran after him. I says, you're going to come back and you're going to say, no, you really scare me. And I says, did I hurt you? I said, he says, you know when I do things that I'm not supposed to do. And I says, well, don't do them. That'll stop it. So just things like that. I just happen to try to listen to the message or pass it on to people. And I'm right most of the time.
Yeah, and I think it's important that everybody knows that you just be a good person to be a good person because you want to be a good person. You're not gonna treat people like shit and be nasty just to be nasty. But if you are, that's on you. But I think there have been many cases with near-death experiences where the people are not necessarily living a good life, and they come back and they do live a better one. They struggle, they go through hell to get to that point, but there is a reward attached with it. But that temporary time period until you actually die is okay. and better than your previous existence in leading up to your NDE. So, a lot of people claim, they don't recognize their old self. I know I don't recognize my old self just in my transformation over the years. I don't recognize my old self at all. There's this transitional period where you're moving on to a new you. And the same thing happens with near-death experiences. No different. But the problem is that all of this can suck someone in and in turn spit them out right back into the reincarnation soul trap, which is just a horror of a thought. And it's disgraceful that it's happening to good, meaning people who are just trying to find themselves again. And they're being put through hell. And they're going to end up back here because they put all this faith in that experience, all that build up into that experience.
Yes, Lady in Black.
I wanted to ask you what you thought of this. Both my parents and then a client of a hospice nurse. My mother, when she died, she looked up and went like this with one eye, because she has really bad one eye. And my father, when he died at the last, he looked up with both hands, with both eyes.
That's the transition between this and this place here and that place. That's the veil lifting, and they see their lost loved ones from decades ago. They see the light. They feel the presence of love, and they want to go there. And a lot of times the people left behind, the ones sitting with their loved ones, don't want them to go, and they're playing tug of war instead of saying, go, be free. Really, I'll be fine. And that's all they're waiting to hear is, they'll be fine.
Okay, first off, what the term is for this, and I did a video on this one as well. It's called deathbed visitations. Okay, leading up to and at the time of death, there are visitors that come, always in the form of deceased loved ones. Of course, we're talking about this near-death experience in this very rare case where she sees a living family member, which again just blows my mind and makes me question things. I'm not going to lie. Now, with deathbed visions or visitations, their job is to get you to go along with them. So yeah, they're looking up, because most of the time, if you read through the accounts of deathbed visitations, they're seeing something at the corner of the room, up above them. Or if it's leading, if it's not the moment of death, like the day of or something, it could be them having a conversation with something at, the end of the bed, the edge of the bed, and they might be looking, towards the end of the bed. And then other times they'll be looking up in the ceiling, towards the ceiling, and having full-fledged conversations about this and that, and it's almost always someone they know, or could be a religious figure too. Just saying, something's rotten in Denmark across the board, and so many are falling for it.
Okay, and then a hospice, after this happened, I was talking to a hospice nurse, and she said that one of her clients, I told her about these, and she said, well, not everybody has good experiences. I said, what do you mean? She goes, well, one of my clients was dying, and he saw his abusive father who molested him, and he came to get him, and he was saying, no, no, no. He was just having a really bad time about it, and he died like that. So how do you address that?
Once he transitions, he understands on the other side. people, and this is hard for a lot of people like Hitler. When Hitler died, God embraced and loved him, welcomed him with open arms, because his choice of lessons to teach or to learn were to wake up the world about how people can manipulate and run and control and murder, mass murder and stuff.
Okay. Two big things here. Massive, okay? You have, first, the woman in the audience saying to her, a hospice patient had the abusive father come, okay? Now, we've gone over a case in the past, I've brought it up many times, about how mostly when people are having these experiences with someone who abused them or did all sorts of messed up things, okay? You can have a child who goes through with an abusive parent, and then as soon as they turn 18, they leave the house, cut off contact, don't ever talk to that parent again. Well, what does the Matrix do? The Matrix says, okay, all right, you're dying. Now's the time. Let's send down the abusive father to win him over and bring him on over to the light, to suck him back in. And a lot of times, this is the sad part, a lot of times, there's forgiveness. There is, it's okay. Everything is just erased, okay? In that one moment, that one experience, or maybe even a couple experiences, because it does happen where there's a few visitations leading up to your departure, and then they bring it with. Now, in this case, it's interesting because what the member of the audience is saying is that the hospice nurse is saying that the abusive father came, and the person's like, no. That's just so screwed up. Imagine being on your deathbed, and that's what the Matrix is going to show you. The reason they show that is because I think the success rate is pretty high. That's, of course, my opinion, but I'm basing that off of a lot of things I've read. But I seriously think that it's a big test, and it's probably mathematically on the Matrix's side. Okay? In this case, what we're hearing is that the person was like, no. Now, anyways, what I would sadly say is that because of all the horrible experiences that this poor man endured, and ends up having the father come on his deathbed, I'm sure the transition process for that poor guy was awful. Okay, I'm sure he had a hell-like NDE, and it must, I mean, not an NDE, a hell-like death experience. And then eventually, of course, got recycled. But, I feel my heart goes out to that poor guy. Now, moving on to number 2. I'm not going to say the name because it always causes a stir with YouTube. AH, okay? Now, think about the insanity that we're hearing with this mess, okay? She's talking about how, he was put there to teach the world a lesson. Do you see, my friends, the insanity of the Stockholm Syndrome on steroids? This is a perfect example of it. If you need any more examples, this is the one. And it doesn't matter, you know how many atrocities happen on this earth? You pick it. Stop. I can't even say these names because YouTube gets uptight. But you get what I'm saying. There's been tons of these characters throughout Earth's history, and it's just like, but God's gonna loving God's just going to open the pearly gates and everything's going to be hunky-dory. Come right in. Come on. Everything's going to be grand. You see the insanity of this realm? You see how everyone just excuses everything away? Do you really want to be putting your hope into all this, knowing that there's a support system for that mess? For AH or any of these other characters that have destroyed humanity and crushed souls, leveled neighborhoods and countries, and caused endless amounts of suffering in this world? No. The days of the excuses for this bullshit are fucking over. I am sorry about my language, but I am not going to sit here and feed you this acceptance, like everything's love and light, rainbows and unicorns, God has a plan, God has this, everything's going to be great. No. It's done. Somebody needs to do it, and there are other people doing this work. I'm not the only one, but it's just like we need to really continue to push and make sure that the point is clear, that the days of excusing this reality's bullshit away is over. It's over. And the biggest truth in this realm and of your existence as far as it pertains to the future is knowing about the Matrix Reincarnation Soul Trap and how it functions and how you can prove it to yourself. Again, you don't like my style, I get it, but that's okay. You can prove it to yourself. You don't need me.
And we stopped him and he died. But when he transitioned, God said, you did a damn good job over there.
You did a damn good job over there. And then listen to this woman. You got to be careful. No shit, right? Can you believe she's saying this shit?
But when he transitioned,
Listen
God
to
said,
this.
you did a damn good job over there.
Be careful about that.
Yeah, I know, but it's truth.
I know, but I just want to make excuses for everything. I just want to say that everything, I just want to give excuses for everything in this reality. Because God has a plan. God has a plan. And he's going to come and open the doors for you with loving arms and give you the love bomb and everything's going to be fine.
God is all loving. And when we choose things, he puts his seal of approval on them. And with that, you are accepted back with total love. No one is rejected.
Okay. Now, what I'm also going to add here is if you've been following the channel, maybe you're new, that's all right. Welcome aboard. I do a lot of work with breaking down past life regressions, and there's going to be even more. There's a lot to come to help you guys who are new, or ladies who are new, to prove this to yourself, because that's what it's all about. Now, in the regressions, there are life scripts, life plans that are laid out, and the person is involved, the spirit, the soul, is involved with making these plans. And there's a soul group you're involved with, there's a guide, and then there's a council. Now, you would think that if Mr. AH was about to grace his presence on the world, that maybe there would be like a something that would stop that. You know, something that would kind of, hold up there. You know, we don't have to go that far. Oh, no. La. Everything's fine. Everything's love and light. Everything's love and light. You believe this shit? Do you believe that this is allowed to continue, allowed to go on? Again, it's all about putting the pieces together in all of this, because there's not just one segment of this that you can look at and say, okay, Matrix Reincarnation confirmed, blah, 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 or Matrix Reincarnation Soul Trap denied. No, you have to look at all the individual pieces, the individual topics, to bring it all in and say, whoa, there it is. And again, it's all about the data trend. It's all about that data and being able to identify the patterns and say, okay, there's the big picture. Now I can see it. Now I know with every fiber in my being. And I'm going to be okay when I'm on my way out of here.
And whether it's, like I said, God, Allah, whatever you want to call, whatever religion you are, or non-religion, the supreme being is that supreme.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of very supreme. Doing such a great job down here. Talking, woo, God, give me a big kiss. You're so good at what you do down here, God. It's because it's not really God. It's a bunch of parasites running this joint. And the sooner we realize that, the better.
And it's a very hard concept to understand because I've hated that guy for years. And I can't believe that someone could cause such mass destruction of human beings. But we've got Rwanda. We've
Here
got
comes the excuse
many
train.
other, the Armenians are...
Yeah, just think about all this suffering all over the world. We got this, we got that. Yeah. Well, put them up there with the rest. No big deal. No big deal. Stockholm Syndrome on steroids.
There's so much genocide happening
So
all over
much.
our world.
Oh my. You bet
And
there is.
the more we can love and show compassion,
Yeah.
that'll take all of that away, hopefully someday. And we won't have war anymore. But we have got to walk the talk and be examples out there. And it may seem frustrating at times for a lot of people, but we will leave a little bit of something good when we leave. And if we can leave one person smiling and saying, I was valued. This person, I was a homeless person on the street, and she took time to say, hi, I hope you have a beautiful day.
And I hope you have a beautiful day. And I'm sorry that you're going to just have to continue suffering the rest of your life until you get the fuck out of here. Yes, it all makes sense. And you see the infection of the New Age in her? It is just rearing its ugly head, my friends. The New Age, well, everything's love. Everything's love. And it's just on full display, like no one's business in this video. Because it's just, think about the excuse that we just heard. Rwanda. Insane. Just insane.
Can I get you something? Just recognizing that other people have needs and you're willing to give to them is all it takes. Now, that person, it could have changed his whole life. Just smiling at a person and you walk down the street, they could be having a real lousy day, but that smile, hi, and I'd say, wow, man, that felt good.
Now, look, the smile down the street isn't going to change someone's life forever. I mean, maybe in a very, very rare case it may, if there's like a conversation that comes out of it, yada, yada, yada. But, you can see just the New Age infection is just, it's just rampant in the world. Just the people who just love to make excuses for the people that love to make excuses for everything. It's just sad because would you rather there's people aren't being honest with themselves. How can people just not be honest with themselves and she knows all these other genocides are happening, but everything is just excused away. It baffles my mind. And this is how it is around the whole realm. People just excuse away everything. They bend knee to anything and anything. People have this The human body has the worst flaw imaginable, and that is the susceptibility to mind control, manipulation, and the desire to have somebody lead them. That is the worst human flaw, and that is embedded in you. It's embedded in you and passed down generation after generation. And there's a reason for that, because it goes hand in glove with the whole control system, not just here, but in the astral realm, because they have to work together to keep you coming back. You see what I'm saying? It's really important to break it down like this. I know I'm rambling a lot, but if you have to have all the components to see the big picture, because if you just look at one here, one there, and then you throw out the rest, you're not really going to have the full puzzle.
You've got to give what you want to get. And I think part of our lessons in life here are to do our portion of it. You've had an experience. You know the unconditional love, right? Yeah. Yes, the lady in back.
How did you rectify being here after having that wonderful, peaceful, loving experience?
I'm struggling.
This is rough. Good.
I am struggling. I don't want to be here. I welcome Dad, and I keep telling him, okay, anytime, I have trouble. And I find that I go into my cave a lot because I can't deal with public, being out in public with people. It's hard because their focus is either on their phones, their iPads, I got to get ahead of this car. It's like, no, you got to back off and enjoy. You are here for a purpose. Now figure it out. I am not doing well here. And it's because I know what's on the other side waiting, and I really want to be there. And I'm going to have to wait, I guess, until the right time.
Now, you talk to a lot of NDE experience. I haven't talked to a ton. I've talked to a number, but if you read, listen, watch what they say, they're all looking forward to leaving. They all can't wait. Now, some I'm sure are more suicidal than others, but the bulk of them will tell you that they can't wait to get out of here and get on with their lives. And because they know that's their true self. What they don't know is that the whole thing is a scam, that the whole thing is a hatchet job. And what's even worse is when you come to the realization of how you have played your own role in this. But at the same time, don't get down on yourself, my friends. There's a positive message at the end of all this when I put this information out, and I keep trying to say this because it's really, really important. I know it sucks, okay? I know it sucks to come to the realization that what you thought you knew about yourself as it pertains to this realm ends up unfolding before your very eyes, okay? But very, very positive message, and this can't be just thrown away like it's nothing. You have to realize that you have all the power. We are so powerful. Right now, yeah, we're in this body, and we're limited, but we made an agreement. We consented to come here. And when our time comes, we'll be able to fully process and do what we want and not have to ever worry about coming back to this place. That's the great message in all this, is that this is about liberation and sovereignty forever. How much better can that get? How much better can that get? I mean, seriously, talk about a great message. So even though, you know, a lot of this stuff is difficult, there's a really, really big positive message with all this. And please, please, please don't ever forget that. And also don't forget to enjoy yourself while you're here. You have to enjoy yourself while you're here. I know, again, things kind of suck and this and that, but there's so many great things about life too. I mean, the nature's beautiful. Get outside, get some sun, take some hikes. I hike multiple times a week. Get sun every day. Okay? That's really, really important. It'll lift you up. You know, heck, if you go on the trail, you know, just bring a book, pull over to a park bench, something. Just get out in nature. Nature heals. Now, there's a reason why the realm puts both here. Not just that we're in a duality, because we are, but in the same breath, they made this place look so nice. Because if they made it look like I'm talking about visually outside, granted, nature isn't always our friend. I can't forget that. But for the most part, if you go out in nature, you're going to feel better. If you get sun every day, you're going to feel better. Take advantage of it. Don't just be holed up on YouTube all day or on the internet all day. If you want to feel better, get outside. I promise you it'll help. That's how I get by. I'm telling you, that's how I do it. It's so important that I get my dose of nature as much as possible during the week. And I promise you, you'll feel better.
It's too beautiful.
Well, I connected with what you said about purpose. I have, my father died when I was 3. Struggled in school, I'd go home in tears, and she'd say, tell your father, he knows what's going on. Talk to him. He'll hear you and put thoughts in your head, and later, those thoughts you'll say, that came from father. I'm thinking my earthly father. But it changed as I got older. And when I used to ask her, well, what church there are so many? She said, it was not the door you go through, it's your conversation with God. Do you have a relationship? Whoever you call your God.
Yeah,
I just see with me, and over the decade, if I look back each decade, I see I had to go through this before I was ready with this.
You see, it's a multi-level scam. I had to go through this before I can get to this. I had to go through that before I could get to that.
You're saying about learning lessons, this before I was ready with this, what you're saying about learning lessons. And that's kind of the way he took me from struggling in elementary school, probably part of my father dying early, but also I could see the steps that I had to go through, the learning, and my strength was working with children who didn't fit in traditional classroom methods. And so my conversation with him is thanking him for the struggles that I had to go through. So I don't have a...
Yeah, thank you. I mean, you know, God bless this woman. I don't mean God, but you know what I mean. It's just bless her, okay? I mean, how horrible. She's 3 years old, loses her father. She's finding solace in this communication with who she thinks is her father, and maybe to some extent it is. But then you have like this multi-level marketing scam going on too that seems to be going on in the background. Like, you know, lessons. Again, the Earth is a school narrative. I mean, my heart goes out to this lady. I feel bad for her. But, you know, we have to just call it what it is. It's bait and switch. It's the carrot and stick.
Question, I only have an affirmation.
And that's true. And I can say if I'm having a real bad day, I can say, oh, guides, I need a hug. And I actually feel them hugging me. They're there, everybody, our angels, our guides, our passed on family and loved ones. All you have to do is ask. They're there for you. They're right here. They're all around us. We just need to tune into them.
We just need to tune into them and ask for them to come. Now, mind you, sometimes, yes, they are real, okay? but they're still stuck within the construct of the matrix. You get that? They're still stuck. They're still within here. They're still indoctrinated, and they're passing that off onto you. That comfort level that you're getting from them is all part of the scam. I am not saying don't appreciate it, just be aware of it. That's all. That's it. And also have the understanding that maybe sometimes you're not dealing with who you think you're dealing with. Because your belief system, your intention, your fiery passion within you is going to mold and come back at you. And it might not be from who you expect it to be. But because you're limited to this physical body and the experiences that come with it, even though we have more than 5 senses, it can be a game changer because of how limited your perception is that comes along with it. And that's really, really important.
And the more you meditate, the more you'll feel and sense and be aware of all these presences that are here, but no one acknowledges because of belief or what have you. And sometimes I really get to a bad place and I really need hugs. And then pretty soon I'm getting a lot of hugs. And then I breathe into them and I'm okay for a while. And then I go my merry way. And then sometimes I say, it's rough. I need another hug. I'm struggling. We all struggle.
Sue, I just want to say what an amazing soul you are. You had a choice up there about coming back or not, and you considered the surgeon because you were able to understand what he was dealing with, and you made that choice. And I want to thank you for him because he probably will never know you did that.
I did. No. I wrote a letter years later, and I wanted to tell him I was aware of his struggles and that to thank him for bringing me back. Didn't tell him I was my choice, but he needed to believe that he brought me back.
Thank you for bringing me back. Again, this goes against most of the NDE data. Most people, the first thing that you'll hear, not the first thing, but you'll see it in these testimony after testimony after testimony. I didn't want to come back. Now, some years might go by where they get readjusted back into the physical existence, but still, you ask them, you listen to them, and they say that they can't wait to go back. Even she said it. She admitted it.
And when I called the hospital and they said he refuses communication. This man is still hurting. I said, but you don't understand. This will uplift him. This will be something he needs to hear. He needs to feel. He needs to know he did well. He needs this. No, we can put it in his file. Until he asks for it, he won't know. I said, let him know, please. Please call him. Let him know. And they said, no, he doesn't want communication.
You know what you did.
I know what I did, and anybody up there knows unconditional love. You do whatever you have to give it to someone else.
Exactly, and you're also doing that on the pilot. So, I mean, you talk about the smiling amount. I know you do it. And so you touched a lot of people in addition to that doctor since you made that decision. I know it's hard to be on the planet when you really want to be back there. You know what it feels like.
Yeah.
But I just want to thank you.
Oh, thank you for your kind words. I appreciate it. A lot of us are suffering with that same issue, and occasionally I'll go back to Connecticut and go sit with a group which has evolved and changed over the decades, but yeah. And that's what unconditional love is. It doesn't matter. You just do what someone needs. And he broke my heart that he was going to quit. And no one should quit when they're doing something good. He just needed to learn he was not God. It was not really his choice. He needed to do the best he could do, and that was all that was asked of him. So if that made him save more lives, I was happy to do it.
You know, and just to put aside, excuse me, has nothing to do with what she just said, but, you know, the unconditional love thing, I put unconditional love up there with respect. I mean, unconditional love is a very big thing to say, right? I mean, that's a bold statement to make across the board, because that applies to anything and everything. Unconditional love. There's no wiggle room. Unconditional. Okay? No wiggle room. So I like to say when I'm evaluating a friendship, excuse me, or a relationship, anything in my life, any interaction I have with somebody, the way I go about it is respect is earned, not assumed. Same goes for love. Love is earned, not assumed. Anything other than that is just fooling yourself. That doesn't mean you should be disrespectful and this and that, but no, you should give the person time to get to know the person, see what they're all about, also understand where they came from, maybe some problems that occurred in their life, and give them a chance and evaluate the whole situation. Be fair about it. But along with that comes respect. Respect and love go together. And if someone's being a jerk and someone's treating you like crap, why do you want to be involved? Why must there be unconditional love? Because that's the new age approach. This is the new age agenda on full display. And this is, again, no offense to Sue. No offense to anyone out there. I mean, you know, people who want to just continue living their life and just tricking themselves and living in the clouds all day, that's on them. And again, I'm not trying to be a jerk here. I'm just trying to, you know, I like to call things out the way they are. When you combine all this stuff that's going on here in conjunction with how it works when you leave here, oh, it is just crazy. There's no room for error. No room. You just, it's all about the power is within each and every one of us. And that's the best thing you can take away. You hold all the cards.
And so thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah, Sue,
Oh,
as you know, there are some near-death experiences that are very negative. And the experiencer will describe seeing ghoulish beings and people in huge agony. And my thought has always been that when one passes away, they go to a level that is similar to what their consciousness is upon dying. And so that if they've lived a very evil life, they go to a lower level that involves some negativity, but because of the loving God, oneness, they're allowed to grow on up.
yes,
They're allowed to grow on up. Allowed. Key words. Allowed. And yes, it's almost as if like the hell-like near-death experiences are just thrown out the door in this presentation.
I agree with that.
And with a lot, and you know, let me just say, with a lot of the near-death experience community, which is really, really a disservice. Not saying that they're not supportive, but imagine having a near-death experience. And this is what happens to these poor people. They have a near-death experience, a hell-like near-death experience specifically, okay? Negative. And then they come back here and they're trying to figure out what the hell just happened to me. Oh my God, the afterlife's going to be a nut house, yada, yada, yada. Well, then they start trying to figure out what the hell happened to me. What did I just experience? Good Lord. Then they finally figure out, oh, okay, so there's a term for it, a near-death experience. That's what I had. Then they start reading, listening, watching near-death experiences, and what do they see? They see all this love and light. Everything's love, everything's awesome. And then there's like this small percentage that are hell like near-death experience, and those are the things that they can relate to. How sad is that? I feel bad for anyone that has to go through anything negative, but let alone, coming back here and reading and listening and watching all these near-death experiences that are all so positive, and you had, the small percentile classification of a near-death experience, and it's negative. Horrible. Oh, my heart goes out to those people. If any of you are out there hearing that, my heart goes out to you. Oh.
On up.
Yes, I agree with that. I just haven't had experience with that. So I'm sure like Al saw the Grim Reaper, but that changed. And he also informed the doctor of, he said, I died. And the doctor said, oh, no, everything, you're alive. And he said, no, because you had to send for a special machine that was called blah, 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 and gave up a bunch of numbers. And the surgeon goes, how do you know? And he says, I told you I died. I was out there watching you. And so the doctor, there are a lot of medical professionals won't accept the death experience. And again, they think they're God. People in professions are so locked into their profession in a certain way that they're not open to evolve in it.
And you know what's interesting? You hear her say this, okay? She's talking about on a level of a professional, doctor, whatever, the medical establishment. They have been fed that, okay? Materialism has been fed. They have been fed that. They know nothing else. Just like she knows nothing else. Because all she did was have an experience. And what did she do? She fell into the love and light trap. To no fault of her own. But here she is judging these people. Which I'm in agreement with her. I think it's a disgrace that people don't have an outlet to discover themselves and have access to this information like we do. But the only reason we do, the only reason she does, is because we actively, sought it out. We decided to say, hey, let's go look into this stuff and see if there's any, is there any legs on this thing? Can we prove it? Is there enough there to really win us over and say definitively, yes, near-death experiences are real, yada, yada, yada. And then, the soul trap is a whole another adventure in and of itself. But here she is saying this about, the medical field. But they know no different, just like she knows no different. It's all the same thing. It's confirmation bias.
I even volunteered.
And indoctrination.
Locked into their profession in a certain way that they're not open to evolve in it. I even volunteered in hospice for a while. Bless this woman and her son. They researched every single religion on earth. And one day I said, oh, well, then you must know about near-death experiences. And then I told them I had to, and oh, wow. So I told them about it. And every time I went to see this woman, she was in a different facility. She had more travel miles on her than anything. But when I found her and I knew it was her, she would die within a couple hours. So I held her hand and I talked. And a nurse came in and she says, "We don't discuss things like that." And it's amazing how some people working in that won't accept that. And yet there are other nurses who say, "Oh yeah, I almost saw the soul raise out of the body." You know, so you have a whole gamut of people and their belief systems. And when I left this woman, I called her son. I said, "Get there quick. She's going to be dying soon." And I mean real soon. And by the time he got there, she had died. And she went peacefully, which we were both thankful. And he hugged me and he says, "Thank you. You've really helped make this different. My life is different." And I said, "Yeah, now if we can only change the hospice system." You know? And then I quit hospice because I couldn't stand being told I couldn't talk about death experiences. And I thought, of all people, they need to know it's wonderful. They need to just let it be and let it happen.
I'm curious what happened in the tunnel. Did you ever find out if there were other people injured?
Oh, thank you. No, I didn't hurt anybody else, although the state of Pennsylvania sent me a nice bill for all the damage I did in the tunnel, and I took out a few poles when I came out of the tunnel, and yeah, I just, Ma, send it to the insurance company. I had insurance, so thank God. But I lost my car. My slant 6 engine was upright. And it was a perfect ball. They had to use the jaws of life to breathe. I even shattered the little glass on the radio I mean, who shatters that little piece of glass that's not even 1/4 of an inch by 3 inches? You know, it was an old car. Anyone else that has questions, comments?
It would seem like to me if you have a relationship with your creator, and how we view creator, while you're living, it'll be an easy transition. Because you're going to go, well, wherever you take me, I'll be with you, so whatever it is. But if you don't have, that's where you have trouble, I would think.
Again, it's all choice. I was shocked when I was watching them work, and it took me a while to figure out it was me that they were working on. I thought I was so calm and peaceful over it. It was like sitting in a movie theater watching something happen on a screen, except for the screen was down here, and I was up here. And usually that's not my modus operandi, so... And I marveled at that even afterwards. And I even say to the higher being, the universe, I call it the universe. I say to the universe, it's okay to take me out in another car accident as long as I don't hurt anyone else. Because that means more to me than anything. I do not want to take anyone with me or even hurt someone when I go out. And that is critical. That's my caveat. That's what I want. Whether I get it or not, I don't know. But hey, not my choice. I just put it out there. Yes.
I had one last thing Grandma said to me.
Here comes the mic.
I'm going home. And my mother, a psychiatrist who was with us, said she's getting ready to go home. To which I thought, if I'm going home, then I came from somewhere. So where I came from, I know I'm going home. And that's very comforting when I lose someone and I will see them again. Like you say, it won't be the same form. Yeah, but somehow you recognize it.
It's because of the unconditional love. We all started, think of us as all drops from the ocean. Okay, you're a drop, we're all drops. We're still the ocean. So When we die, we revert back to the ocean and we feel at one again. You can't even begin to explain infinity or unconditional love because you can't compare it to anything on this plane. But it is unbelievable. The colors on the other side, the most vivid pink, blue, green, yellow, orange, are dull here compared to there. And they could be the brightest thing in this plane.
And they also, a lot of near-death experiencers will say that there are colors they see that don't even exist down here. So that's another thing to add to it, that not just how vibrant the existing colors that we know exist, but there are ones that we're not even aware of.
And they're dull. The music there really is beautiful on the other side. It is unbelievable. The love, total unconditional. You don't have to be afraid of anything. You just are enveloped with it.
You don't have to be afraid of anything. You're just enveloped with it. You just go along with the show and just be a drone. That's all. You just go along and do your thing and take orders.
And the brightness of the light behind door number 2, I didn't think anything could top where I was. And yet they gave me the choice of number 2. I took it. Not everybody is given a choice, by the way. Some people, some young mothers who have to leave a baby or children behind, they want to come back. And sometimes it's not in the card, and sometimes it is.
Okay. I'll just say, the love bomb being as powerful as it is, I mean, insanely powerful. Again, we've heard mothers say point blank that the love they experienced there was more powerful than the birth of their own children. If that doesn't say the level of trickery that we're dealing with, I don't know what does. And never discount the fact that you were born here with no recollection of who you are, where you came from, or why you are here. If that doesn't haunt you and concern you, then something's wrong. And I'm not casting fear porn in anybody. I say this because I care. And that it's important that you realize the whole context that we are brought into this world under the veil of forgetfulness. And that's all by design. We consented to it. But the problem is we consent to it not long after we die. That's the crazy part. So that's why it's so easy, even though like we have access to our more of our true self when we're in the astral, and everything feels like a near-death experience. Just talk about all the time, like I was all knowing, I was this and that, and then they come back here and they barely have anything. They have something, but nothing on the terms of being quote unquote all knowing or having the answers to quote unquote everything. You know, that's just that's a big jump. And the same thing happens when you come here. You make all these plans and this and that, but the reason why they're so successful is because there's this chain, these marching orders that you take until eventually you're recycled right back in here.
So you don't always get a choice. And what that is based on, I have no clue. All I can speak of is from my experience, and I was given a choice.
Okay, again, I'm going to say it's perception management. I'm sorry to stop her in the middle of this. I'm going to rewind it, but it's really important that you know that it's all about consent. It's all about perception management. If you don't know the soul trap's happening here and in the astral and how it's linked together, then of course you're just going to go along with the show. And then they can wipe your mind out. That's near-death experiencers admit it. They openly admit it that their memories were erased. So you don't even recall agreeing. That's not to say you didn't agree, because I think you absolutely need to agree once you are outside the body, but at the same time, maybe you have a life script where it's predestined. It's like, okay, you've got to go X amount of years, X amount of time until you can do it. And then what they do is they erase it because they want you to keep going along with the scam. And there's an agreement made there. And then you also have belief systems involved and all these other things. Soul group connections, all this stuff chirping in your ear. Who knows how far it goes with people who have a near-death experience. But we know for a fact that some level of memory wipe exists in near-death experiences. Does it exist in everyone? No, because some people agree. Some people are so far gone and so in this lost in the sauce that they're going along with it. So it's just really important to make that distinction, that there's no way to have all the data on all of this if you're dealing with people who are mind wiped. I mean, it's common sense. If you're lacking data and something has this insane ability to just wipe it with one foul swoop, and you come back here and you know no different, and you're only allowed to have access to selective memories about your experience, which help in this case. What do near-death experiences do? People come out, they eventually tell their testimony. Not all of them, but a lot of people do. They come out and they eventually share their testimony. And what does that do? It crafts the narrative. It crafts the narrative for what you think you're going to expect. What does that do? It builds a belief system. You fall into another trap. What happens? You end up back here. It's a revolving door until you take everything on your own and think and analyze everything logically and look for the patterns. That's the only way. Other than that, you're relying on something outside yourself to give you the answer. When you are a piece of the Creator already, you're a piece of it. And you can consent or deny consent.
And sometimes it is. So you don't always get a choice. And what that is based on, I have no clue. All I can speak of is from my experience, and I was given a choice. And I know I made the good choice, even though I kick myself for making that choice. Because being here is tough. Yes?
Do you believe there is a hell and heaven? If you live in the right way, you go to the heaven, and if you live the wrong way, you go to hell.
No hell. No hell. Hell is a belief that people have here that we're taught. If you believe in an all-loving God, is your Buddha your God? Who's your God?
I am Buddhist, but I do respect all the religion, and I do believe the right thing to do in life from your heart. You do it because of your heart, not because of your own benefit.
Yes.
However, we do believe that if you kill people, you destroy them, life, when you pass, you have some kind of punishment.
Well, you're sent right back, honey. Yeah.
All right. I'm gonna rewind just a little bit so you can hear the Buddhist perspective. Okay. I want to just really say this because I think it's important that I've been through all this. Okay. I was very, very close to becoming a Zen Buddhist monk. Okay, I lived in the monastery for a period of time. I traveled the U.S. a little bit, went to retreats. It was one of the best periods of my life, and I would never give it up because it was a learning experience. Everything was awesome. It wasn't a cult. It was just awesome. It was Plum Village, Thich Nhat Hanh's monasteries. It's just awesome. But as I'm going through it, and I am like this close to signing on the dotted line and just moving in. Okay, they were ready to take me. I was this close, but something inside just didn't feel right. Something was wrong. And it was just, it was the karma thing. It was something didn't seem right. And I would put like the elder monks to the test and say, well, what about this? What about this? And, and I wasn't satisfied with the answers I was receiving. And I like what the Buddhist is saying in this video because she's talking about how you do things from the heart because you want to do it because that's the right thing to do. But then, she falls off into her Buddhist programming. I like to say that, Buddhism, Hinduism, and Gnosticism, if they were all combined together, minus a lot of the bullshit, they would wake more people up than probably anything else in the world. So you see how even when you're this close to the truth in the mainstream, it fails you on a massive, massive scale. And if it wasn't for that karma thing, I would probably be in that monastery right now. Even portions of me today wish I was there because it was just such a great time, and the community aspect of everything. And, it sounds culty, but, I lived it. There's nothing culty about it. It's not a high pressure cult or anything crazy. It's just, it was a good time in my life. But I was spiritually vulnerable at the time. I was so spiritually vulnerable that I thought about becoming a monk and thought about, just going along because all these great aspects to it were clouding my judgment on the karma aspect to it. And that's really, really important because that's how religion works. It's like, we're going to give you all this great stuff, and then you're not going to think as hard about the red flags that you likely have but are just tossing away. It's really, really that's how this whole system is so successful. They have all you can eat buffet ready and waiting for you to pick from. And they're hoping that you're going to be, just eating it up. And you find one that suits you. And then they got you. And you're back here again next lifetime.
If you believe in an all-loving God, is your Buddha your God? Who's your God?
I am Buddhist, but I do respect all the religion, and I do believe the right thing to do in life, from your heart. You do it because of your heart, not because of your own benefit.
Yes.
However, we do believe that if you kill people, you destroy the life, when you pass, you have some kind of punishment.
Well, you're sent right back, honey. Yeah, you don't get to stay and enjoy and rejuvenate on the other side and bask in all that unconditional love. They say, you did that, okay, well, guess what? You're turning right around. You got to go back and make restitution, or that's your hell.
Karma, sinning, judgment. How does she know? All she dealt with was the love bomb. How does she know? It's either a communication, an assumption, something that's not her organic thought. And I will stand by that. I don't care what anyone says. That is an implanted line of thinking, just as is all the unconditional love stuff about just throwing away all the atrocities and this and that. And then now she's saying, oh, well, okay. Well, you're not going to be able to enjoy the astral realm that is, quote unquote, heaven-like. That's my quote, by the way, not hers. And you're just instead going to be, you're going to have to make restitution and be sent right back down. Where does that leave everybody else? Where does that leave everybody else? We're supposed to just trust this and just say, oh, okay, everything's fine and dandy, and, let's just bank on, giving ourselves away again, and, everything will be all right. It'll be okay.
This is my hell here. Okay? You see, while you're there, all the people transitioning, you're going right back, you're going right back. Oh, you get to stay. Okay, you can stay forever. You can do this. You have choices. But some of the people's choices are not given to them because of what they've done.
Wow. Okay. All right. Sorry, guys. Oh my God. I was just going on there for a while and the mic was off. I'm sorry. Oh my God. All right. Thank you for telling me. Okay. So. All right. Anyways, what I was trying to say is she's talking about choices, okay? And she brought this up earlier. Choices that you're given. Now, as long as you're falling within that set of choices, the system's happy. And I was comparing it while I was muted and rambling that it's no different than picking a sports team. You pick a baseball team, you pick a football team, and you go against the rivals. You pick a job. You start to zone in on what the matrix offers you. Does the matrix offer you, does accounting interest you? Does the job of a nurse or a doctor interest you? Does being a priest or a monk interest you? Whatever the case may be, just like here, the realms, the astral realms that are involved are no different, because she says it point blank, as do a lot of people who have near-death experiences. They say the same thing. They say, oh, well, I had a choice. You had a choice within the system, within the control structure. Trust me, the system doesn't care or give a rat's ass what you decide, as long as you're picking within the predestined set of choices provided to you. They don't care. It's so important that you look at this as if you're running this place, this whole operation. You have to look at it in terms of, okay, if I'm a parasite, what am I going to do? How would I run this place? How would I approach this? I'm going to offer the X, Y, Z, A, B, C. I'm going to make it seem like you have a choice. I'm going to make it seem like you have a say. But all you're doing is you're picking from my all-you-can-eat buffet of fuckery. That's all you're doing. You're picking out where you go with this. And the system doesn't care. The system's like, yes, we got him.
And so they're turned around and say, you didn't learn your lesson, you're going back. Until you keep repeating the lesson until you get it. Now they can have a choice of when they repeat the lesson, but some of them aren't given the choice.
You know what happens when we've learned our lessons and we've lived our multiple lifetimes? What's the final step? Do we just live in paradise as a soul forever?
Okay, now I'm going to repeat her question. But let me just say this right now. Sue is not qualified to answer this question. I promise you. Whatever the answer is, she's not qualified. And I would say that most of us aren't either. The point is it's all about consent. It's all about us. Actually, I would say all of us aren't, because we truly don't know how it all pans out afterwards. But we do know that consent is in the cards for everything. And unless you are declaring your sovereignty, standing up for yourself and saying, I am not going to participate in this bullshit no more, and I'm out of here, and I'm, boom, gone, you're fucked. So let's hear, I think this is probably the best question of the entire conference.
Now they can have a choice of aren't given the choice.
You know what happens when we've learned our lessons and we've lived our multiple lifetimes? What's the final step? Do we just live in paradise as a soul forever?
What I was told was we evolve and there's different realms we can visit, or universes or multidimensional areas we can visit and explore and learn and come back and question. We can stay and enjoy it, but that gets boring.
Okay, I think it's really important that we just rewind just a few seconds of her answer, because it's very revealing, and what it's going to do is it's going to patch in, to no fault of her own. Sue, if you're listening, I mean no harm with what I'm about to say, but it's going to show the hypocrisy of what she claimed in the beginning versus how she's answering this question now.
And learn, and we can visit their universes or multidimensional areas. We can visit and explore and learn and come back and question. We can stay and enjoy it, but that gets boring after a while. So people say, okay, where can I go now?
Okay, so again, what word did she use? Please, my friends, please. What did she tell us in the beginning of this? What did she say? She said, I knew everything. I knew when this person was going to die. I knew this, I knew that. Everything she's talking about. And she went into detail too. She didn't just, talk about, one certain topic or this or that. She got details. She's talking about doctors. She's talking about this one, and she's even going so far as to going up each level of the hospital. And what is she saying? She's saying, I was all knowing. I knew this, and I knew that, I knew this. So she's all knowing. Now we're going to fast forward all the way to this segment. And we still need to learn. You still need to learn. What is there to learn? If you were all knowing back then, what's preventing you from being all knowing right now? What's lacking? What do you need educating on? What do you need to learn? What lessons do you need to achieve? If you had them before, all of a sudden you go through this whole process, dealing with the light, dealing with the, a living family member, going through door number one and going through the whole rigmarole of door number one, door number two, this and that, blah. This question comes up, and then all of a sudden we're back to it's a learning experience. Makes no sense. You see how it reveals itself, but it's subtle. You have to think about what they're saying in one aspect of things, and then you're comparing it to another. It's a big game, but you can. It's just a matter of just listen. Just listen to what they're saying, and don't fall into the love and light. Everything. Don't buy anything they're saying. Just keep an open mind, a centered mind with all of this stuff. And I promise you, nitpick every little thing they say. Nitpick everything. Every single near-death experience you read, every single past life regression you read, listen, watch. It doesn't matter. Take your time. Rewind. If something sounds off, rewind. Play it again. Just keep playing. Just, like I'm doing. I rewind, every video I do, I'm rewinding segments. The reason I'm doing that is because I want you to hear what they're saying. So it's ingrained what to look for. It's all about identifying this stuff. It takes some time. That's all. You can do it. There's nothing special about it. It's just about, the problem really seriously with all this is that everything is excuse me. Everything is over spiritualized. Everything is love this, love that, or this or that. Even if it's hell-like, it doesn't matter. Everything is overly spiritual. And what does that do? It keeps you distracted. It keeps you, oh my gosh, everything is amazing. And you get lost. I got lost in this stuff. I freely admit it. I was listening to NDE'S all the time before I went to bed, and they made me feel great. And I was like, oh, yes, yes, yes. For years I did that. And then you start to really hear what's going on, and you're like, All right. So seriously, take this moment as a big stepping stone for yourself in proving this, because it's so important.
You get antsy, you want to do something, you can only sit and lay on the beach just for so long until it says, okay, this is getting old. And that's what it's like over there. Some people who've had a real rough life get to spend longer time there to re-energize and rebuild their soul and nourish what they feel they need. Now, you and I can experience the identical lifetimes, but maybe you will spend fewer time up there than I would because I'm sensitive, super sensitive, where you may be just sensitive, or it didn't affect you, perceived it differently. Our perception has a lot to do with the situation.
Oh, you bet.
So your perception of the trauma is totally different than mine. I mean, you look at a family with 3 kids, same thing happens to the whole family. Every person handles it differently. Every person is at a different stage.
Okay, every person handles it differently. But how does a family deal with trauma, especially intergenerational trauma? Again, if you watch my video I just did on children, it shows just how the body is set up in a way for us to be manipulated. There's no 2 ways around it. Not just manipulated, but it's designed for suffering. And that's not just me saying, because I suffer with body pain and this and that, that's why I'm saying it. It's the collection. It's the mind, the susceptibility for brainwashing on a massive scale. Can't be discounted. Intergenerational trauma cannot be discounted, because what does it do? It carries over and carries over and carries over until somebody wakes up and breaks it, either by not having a kid or realizing what happened and fixing it and making sure it doesn't happen to the next lineage within the family. See it? I mean, that's how simple it is. But the point is it's all set up in a certain way to just guarantee failure, and that this realm will continue to exist.
So it's the same that when you transition on the other side.
So assuming that your accident was one of the exit points that was part of your soul contract, do you think that you met your soul contract? Well, because you were being taken to the other side. I'm curious what your thoughts are.
Well, I was taken to the other side, and I was told I did everything. I achieved everything I had set out to achieve. Maybe not to the best of my ability, but I achieved, you can pass a test with an A+, or you can pass it with a C, but, it's like, and so I was told I achieved it, but I could achieve more if I went back, and the more was giving unconditional love to that doctor. That was my number one concern. He was so torn up, and he was destroying his life, his marriage, and everything else. He was on a self-destructive path that wasn't going to stop. I don't know if it ever did. I'm just hoping that it gave him a little sucker to take a breath and reevaluate what he was doing. Yes.
I would like to understand a little bit more about suicide.
My grandmother, at the age of 76, in good health, basically, committed suicide. A good practicing Catholic. Now, if there's ever a no-no in the Catholic Church, suicide is. And it was something I couldn't comprehend. This was 30 years ago. I just couldn't understand how she was always praying and everything, about our, about her children and her grandchildren and everything, and then she commits suicide. And I just never could understand if that is really how that affects the afterlife.
I haven't done it, so I can't answer it. I know that one lady who had a death experience had committed suicide, and she was sent back without a choice. And she vowed that she wouldn't do it again. She lives in Alpine, California. She was sent back. I don't know, does your religion address suicide?
Yes, if we suicide, if we kill ourselves before the time comes, our soul is not escape, just be around.
Yeah.
Therefore, you need super spirit to pray, to guide, and perform a ceremony to let your soul escape.
Okay.
Thank you, because I don't know what the other religions say, so I'm a little lost here.
Question.
Yes.
Based on your life story, I think that you have a super psychic ability.
Yes.
That psychic ability must come from an angel, some people, spirit, to guide you, to blessing you. Do you recognize that?
Oh, I do, yes.
I know who it is.
I've had a guide and a spirit that every once in a while I smell smoke, someone who smokes. And I was questioning that, and I asked my past life regression, I says, who could this be? And they said, well, wasn't your father a fireman? I says, yeah, he was. Well, there's your smoke. And I'm thinking, cigarette smoke. Smoke to me is smoke. So it's probably him. I don't know. Okay, well, I appreciate all of you coming. Thank you so much. And go read some books.
Okay, I just want to play a quick clip from, God, I can't believe it's 2:15 in the morning. Went a lot longer than I thought, but that's all right. It was necessary to break it down. So before I get into the next clip, it's going to be short, just so you guys know. I'm not gonna go through the whole thing. It's just there's no point. She tells the same story again, but what I am going to do is skip to the where the interviewer asks her point blank about seeing living family, which is just very different than what we are used to seeing with near-death experience data. Yeah, 33, it's just crazy. Happens a lot. Anyways, that doesn't mean anything. Although this channel seems to attract the shills. So who knows? Okay, anyways, where are we? We're going on to, this is, I'm trying to get there.
And he brought...
Okay, 7:49. In the meantime, while I'm getting this queued up, if you don't mind, if you found this material helpful, please consider hitting the like button. And I also have memberships for the channel that I've opened. And with that, there's 3 different levels. You can check those out for yourself later on. There's a pinned comment here, or you can check the join button. It's not going to stop the video or anything, and you can see what's offered. We have our first members only live stream coming up on Sunday, the 17th. for the month of October, and that will be at 4 p.m. Eastern Time for anyone interested. And again, your support is much appreciated, but never required. I've said this before that, trust me, anything of importance will never be available for sale. It's just some added bonuses and added features and perks, or whatever you want to call them, as a way to say thank you for anyone who does choose to support the channel financially. So with that being said, there's also 2 backup channels, because Lord knows these days you never know how things are going to go. But 2 YouTube backup channels. I have an Odyssey, I have a Twitter. All those links are in the description. There's other things too that I don't really use, like Instagram and Twitter and stuff like that. But if you'd like to join, feel free. And I want to give a shout out to all the members out there who have joined. Thank you so much. It's very kind of you. And I look forward to seeing you this Saturday. So let's get... where are we? There we go. Why did it get like that? Sorry, the video size is kind of small here. Just gonna do this. I know it doesn't look so great, but it's getting late here. Okay. Come on. There we go. Alright, this clip's really short.
And what they offer.
How do you explain the fact that you met people on the other side who are still alive?
I explain it to people like it's the ocean. You take out a cup of water from the ocean. That cup of water is still the ocean. It represents everything that the ocean is. I believe from my experience that our Creator, our God, we are just extensions of them. So we are every place, just like the belief of God is everywhere. We are everywhere. And you can be in many places at many times on different levels.
Has this experience changed your life?
Yes, it has, dramatically.
How?
Many ways. I was born and raised Catholic, and I never felt that that was correct. I am non-denominational. I believe that goodness and love are where it's all at, and I try and live in the moment and be respectful of everybody, no matter where they're at in their life or what they do or anything, whether it's a homeless person on the street who is a drug addict, I will still respect him and say good day to him, you know. It's also changed me where I have psychic powers, I have healing powers, I have intuitive powers. I hear things, I smell things, I get messages in many ways. Don't know what to do with them a lot of times.
How do you have psychic powers?
I was meditating in New England when a friend was in California biking cross country with his children, and in the meditation I got, he's hurt. He was forced to go into an emergency walk-in and he didn't want to do it. So I called his wife and I said, when he gets back into town, please have him call me, it's very urgent. So when he did get in town, he did call me. He told me all about his trip, but he left out the part of the accident. So I questioned him. I said, and what about the accident? He says, what day, what time, how did you know? And I said, I didn't think to write it down, the date and time, but I knew it was in the morning when I was meditating. And he confirmed that, and I guessed. I said, it was like 4 days into your trip, and he said 5 days. Or no, 3 days or something like that. And anyways, I was in the ballpark, and I just knew, I felt he was hurt. I sensed it, I felt it, it was strong, it was powerful. and I knew it.
Okay. I just want to say that this is an NDE, the whole thing. And I pretty much said this at the beginning, but in closing, that I don't necessarily, something's off, okay? And I'm not calling her a liar, but I think there's some embellishing going on. Possibly in big portions, okay? Now, there's a lot of fake NDEs with, particularly with the Jesus crowd, unreal amounts of fake NDEs that often are linked to churches and stuff like that. I mean, tons of them. And they're just, when you start to sniff these things out, you can sense when something's off. And something's off about some of the stories. I mean, she covers so many different things that it makes it difficult for me to fully sign on to all of it. Now, I know, people get powers, all sorts. I mean, they might go and get past life regression. All this stuff very easily can occur as a result of someone having an NDE. But this is where, again, discernment comes in, and you say, okay, well, she's seeing living family members when it's borderline non-existent in NDE research. It exists, but it's such a low percentage that you can't help but go in with this skeptical. And then you compound everything else on top of it. Something's off. That's all. And, Sue, if you're listening, I mean no harm, but something's wrong. That's all. I don't know if you were in a vulnerable point in your life when all this started, and maybe you did have an NDE and you embellished on it a lot to make your case stand out, but I don't know. I'm just saying something's off. That's all. Okay. Now we got that tough part out of the way. I don't like doing that either. I mean, I really don't. I don't take any enjoyment out of saying stuff like that, because I'm very sympathetic to NDEs and mental health and any, all this stuff. But there's just too much. That's saying a lot for me. All right, my friends. It is 2:30 in the morning here. I can't believe started this video and it lasted this long, but it's been fun. Thank you so much, and great seeing you all. I'm exhausted. It's time to go to bed. And check the description for all the links like I mentioned earlier. I should have a stream, I believe, on Saturday, and then Sunday will be the member stream. And we're getting very, very close to kicking off the how to research and prove the Matrix Reincarnation Soul Trap to yourself. That's right around the corner. The first 2 videos should be coming out soon. And thank you so much. I appreciate each and every one of you, and for those that were able to stick in through all this, bless your hearts, and I will see you soon. Much love.